Alright, welcome to another video. We're at a new garden today. It's new to you, but it's very old to me. I've been here since 2004 and I'm hoping one day they'll let me go home. So what we're going to be doing today, I'm going to be showing you how we're going to scarify this lawn. We're going to be identifying some weeds, going through some Latin names, and we're going to have a general walk around the garden and see what we've been up to over the years. And just to my right over there, there's a big gap. I'm going to show you why that is. So stay tuned and we'll get to it. So before we crack on with some of the lawn care, there used to be, like over there, a wooden summer house, and that gap used to be covered with that Lalandi hedge. But I think during Storm Fred, about 6 or 7 years ago, so I think with the insurance money, they put it over here instead, the replacement. So just let me show you over here. This used to be a veg plot, which I did. I've no photos of that, but I did put this area in. I'm multi-talented. This was a definite labour of love. Took me quite a while, but I did a great job. Gets very slippery and very mossy down here because it's in the shade a lot. It goes all the way to the stream. I'll show you over here. Lovely. And this then is the babbling brook known as Bessie Brook, which ends up at Rumworth Reservoir. So it's a lovely little garden, this. Very tranquil when the water's running through, we get a nice still day. Lovely garden. So that's the backstory to this. I'm really pleased with this. When this is cleaned up, it's an absolute joy. It's needed a bit of repointing, just because it's the conditions it's in. It's just kind of eaten through it. You get a lot of trees dripping on it and stuff, and that just degrades the pointing. But generally, very happy, lovely little area. So let's get back to the lawn. Before I forget, did this area too, with the Indian stone sets, honed sets. What happens is, when there's a lot of rain, like a lot of rain in a short space of time, this actually floods, and about 2 or 3 years ago, this actually flooded all the way to the wall and about halfway up the hill there. So something we have to be cautious of. They have over the years created a bit of a buffer from the wall because the constant erosion made the wall collapse a bit further up. I'll go and show you, because they've never repaired those. But it's quite bad. If you have a look, that's what happens with water. There used to be a wall there and it just disintegrated. So they got somebody in, a guy called Tony Lightfoot, and he stopped the stream and diverted it just round and put this concrete haunch in. As you can see, it's looking an absolute treat, but that doesn't stop it flooding, unfortunately. Lower down, they really do get bad problems when it floods. And to be honest with you, it brings concrete down, it brings bricks, York stone. I have actually fished out a bit further up, when into the garden further up, a telegraph pole that in 2002, during the storms that we had during the World Cup in 2002, and it was the day Spain were playing Republic of Ireland, that I was trying to get this telegraph pole out, like a caper it was, like what the Scots throw over the wall. It was like one of them, but I don't think I managed to get it out actually. I'm not quite sure what happened with that, what became of it, but a long time ago. But I remember it just because Ireland absolutely slaughtered the Spanish, but I think they lost on penalties. I've got a good memory like that. Short term rubbish, but long term absolutely fantastic. Okay, so let's get on to today's task, which is scarifying this lawn. Due to reasons out of my control, I've not scarified this year. We normally do it in March, but we've not done it this year, so we're going to do it now while the weather's warm. We've got quite a lot of water about and it will recover. There are a few weeds in the lawn. As I said before, we're going to do some weed identification. So we're going to scarify it first. Normally what I would do is I would treat them and then scarify, just because it's just kind of a decision I've made to do it. I've not kind of had the planning to do it and get the weed killer on. So here we go. So we've got some buttercup here, ranunculus repens, some say repens, I say repens. So this is creeping, so it just creeps all the way along, has rhizomes, so it grows one plant and then sends a shoot out underground, then pops up and keeps on doing that, and then you get a big problem like this. This was actually sprayed in February with WEEDOL for lawns, but because that's one treatment only a year, I've got to use another weed killer today, which I'm going to use like the 2,4-D one, Mecopop, MCPA, and I think it's got dicambrant as well, which is great because we've also got yarrow. I don't think weed killer touches this, so I was just looking up this yarrow, Achillea millefolium, and I read up that 2,4-D, the active ingredient 2,4-D kills this. So we'll give it a go because that's what we're putting on. So if it does, it does. If it doesn't, it's not doing any harm. You can't really see it blended in. So we'll just have a walk over to some other weeds that I've spotted. In '96, went to Myerscough College, and I was on the same class to start with as Christopher Sim, who is now head groundsman at Bolton Wanderers, and we all had 10 weeds to learn. I don't know if you ask him now whether he remembers them, but I remember them all. Now this is one of them. I don't need to look this up. That's Rosebay willow herb with the Latin name of Epilobium angustifolium, and next to that is a dandelion, and that is Taraxacum officinale. So that with buttercup was on the list. We had chickweed on the list, which is Stellaria media. We had hairy bittercress on the list, which is the one where when you touch it, all the things squirt off it. That one there, that's hairy bittercress. And these get like stalks, and then when you just tap them, all the seeds fly off. And that one is Cardamine hirsuta. And you've got groundsel, which is like, kind of like a, doesn't look like a dandelion, but it's kind of got similar foliage, but very small, and it grows up with a yellow flower, and that is Senecio vulgaris. Just trying to think what else was on there. Oh, dockleaf, that was on there. Rumex obtusifolius, that was on there. If I think of any more, I'll get back to you, but that's all I can remember for now. What's that, 6? Was there 4 more? There's definitely 10. But anyway, I'll think of those, and what I'll do is, while I'm doing that, I'll go and get scarifier out, and we'll get this scarified. Why? Because it's just so long, look at it. I mean, look how thick that is. So we're really going to give this a scene to, get it really scalped off, and what Martin will do, he lives here, he will then take what we take up to the tip, because this won't fit in the green bin, so we'll bag it up, and he'll go to the tip. So yeah, just not been done for 18 months now, so in desperado need to. It's not going to look great when we're finished, but it'll come back really quick just because it's such a thick lawn. You used to have a dog, and used to wee on it everywhere, so it's just had so much nitrogen over the years, it just looks after itself. So we're not going to be doing much afterwards. We're going to be giving it an iron treatment, weed killer, and probably a liquid feed, and that'll be it. It'll just come back, and then in a few, 4 weeks or something, we'll come back and have a look and see how it looks. But yeah, we're not doing that bit down there because it's very wet down there. When it rains, it gets very wet at that bottom edge, so we'll just do too much damage, and we just want to do this one today. So yeah, so let's go and get that out, and then we'll get started. Okay, for those of you who haven't seen Yield Faithful before, this is what it is. It's a bladed scarifier. I know I said in my last video what it was, but I've got to cater for the newbies as well. Now this is really going to come into its own today because we're going to go quite deep. We're not like giving it a light vertical. We're really going to turn on this because we need to get through this long grass and get it scouring. Enter the soil. We really want to enter that soil today and flick up as much thatch as we can just while we're doing it, and that way we're going to end up with a better result in the long run. So just looking at it from the top, you've got the height adjuster there, obviously an engine, dry belt there. Obviously it's 15 years old, parts have come off, I've not been able to get them back on, etc, etc. I know what you're saying is, well, what if I haven't got one of these? What can I do? Well, you can hire one. You can hire one of these, not one of these, but a better one really. A bit more heavy duty, and they generally cost around £70 for the first day, which ain't too bad. When I first started, I didn't have one of these. I bought one of these with the money I made from hiring them and doing the jobs. So I used to hire them all the time. But then when you're doing it all the time, it becomes more expensive with what you spend on actually hiring one 10 times a year. You can buy one. So this one, I went halves with my mate, and he stopped doing it. He's still gardening, but he said, I don't want to do scarifying anymore. I want to used to buy it off me, so I had to give him his half. Well, I don't think I give him his full money back, but because these were like in the day, these were £700 back in 2000. When did I get this? 2007. They were about £700. So I had to give him maybe £250 to buy it off him, and I've still got it. So they're really well made machines. Alcor VB 3800 scarifier there. They were called Powerline, that was it. Alcor Powerline, but they're obsolete now. Can't get them. Maybe find one on eBay. There's a guy who sells one, and he's so obnoxious. You message him, and you say, "I want to buy it. But I can't come to London for it. I'll get a pallet company to pick it up. Oh, I'm not sticking it." And you just get the idea of him on the messaging going, "I'm not staying around all day." Just doesn't want to sell anything. He's got like loads of machines, but doesn't want to sell anything. And somebody got in touch and telling me about it. I think it was Carol Box who got in touch, and she said, I found one. But the guy, like, he's really obnoxious. I was like, oh, I know, I've already spoke to him, and I just got that vibe off him. So if you can prize it off him, good luck to you. It's a great machine to get, but if not, hire one. If not, Screwfix Tool Station, they're all bringing out these ones with a blade on as well. Electric, not as powerful obviously, but they'll do a job. So anyway, enough of me rabbiting on, let's crack on and get some scarifying done. Like I said, I'm going to go quite deep, so I'm going to just do a few passes on different heights, and then we'll see what happens. Okay, so let's just assess the mess. I don't think Brittany's going to be doing a concert anytime here soon, but that's the challenge, isn't it, to get it looking right. Look at all this. I mean, a lot of it is like the top growth, but a lot of it isn't as well, so it's probably 75% thatch, 25% top growth maybe, who knows. So let's get it raked up, and then we'll see what we need to do. Probably give it a cut, and then another scarify. Very important that we cut, because if we're going to be putting some feed on and stuff, we really need to be removing all this growth here, because that'll just become our top growth if we like. So we need to do a factory reset, chop all that off, and then the new grass grows from the base, from a solid ground. And then when we come and mow it, say I finish this on 2, when we're leaving here on the hater, we can continue cutting it on 2 going forward, and then we get our new grass growing at number 2. As if we were just to leave this without actually cutting it, when we turned up again to cut, we'd be cutting at 4 and we wouldn't have actually achieved anything. So that's why it's very important that we cut the lawn at this point, just to remove all that top growth. Okay, so we've just got our Magnuson rake out with the square edge. Means we're making contact with the floor on the whole side of it. Even when we're like that, we don't have to be like that to get 100% contact. We can do it stood up, which is what you would do if you had one of those fan shaped ones. You're only touching the middle really when you're raking, so it's not very efficient. So we'll get this raked up. What have we been up to recently? Well, I went watching Bolton at Burton on Saturday. Drove all the way down there to watch a bit of a diatribe affair. I've heard that word mentioned before, so I thought I'd use it. Sounds pretty good. It was alright, good crack. Game of football was not very good really. A bolt going to go up? I'm not very sure. I'm not very sure about that. I don't think we're good enough to be honest, but we'll see. We'll see. Not driven that far before. When I was younger, I had a panic attack on the motorway, and it always put me off driving to the point where I've not really driven much on the motorway long distance. I do local, but in 2015 I had some hypnotherapy which worked wonders, but I've just always put off driving long distance. So on Saturday I broke some barriers for the first time, drove all the way to Burton and was absolutely fine. So confidence building. I'm going to try and get to some more and drive and kind of put that one to bed, because it has held me back in my life, I guess. Not going places because, or going places but going the wrong way around, or the long way around, and instead of it taking an hour, taking like 4 hours. I remember doing that once to get to Lake District. Took the scenic route. Oh, that's nice to do, but not very efficient, I guess. So anyway, let's get all this picked up. I'm always surprised how much comes up, as you know, but today I'm even more surprised. I just hope I've got enough bin bags to get it all up. So let's crack on and we'll see you when I've finished. Alright, wow, quite a lot of stuff. Wasn't expecting this much. I don't know if I've got enough bin bags or enough room in the van to take it away, so hopefully Martin will volunteer to go to the tip. He's been a few times this week already, so I'm sure he won't mind going a few more times. Now, just have a look up close, we can see there where it's really gone to town because it was not as thick, but where it's really thick, or I've missed maybe just because I couldn't see where I've been because it was covered in scarifyings, that's not really been touched. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it. I'll cut it on 3, I think, 3 or 4. Get rid of all this top growth, and then we'll give it another scarify and another cut, and then we'll call it a day with that, and that'll be absolutely fine. Get some products on, and then I can go home and get some tea and do some packing. Okay, now we've cleared the first pass of scarifying, we just want to show you this. Now, when we talk about lateral growth and why we want a vertical to stop them creeping grasses, this is a very extreme case. As you can see, these have just grown sideways, so every time I mow it, we just squash it down and it doesn't actually get cut. These might spring up the side shoots, but in the main it doesn't get cut, so it just keeps creeping along, whereas a verticutter would come through and it would chop all those back. So that's why we verticut. Like I said, this is a very extreme case. This is a lawn that is never going to be Wembley, just because it's so coarse. There's no grasses in here really that I would kind of, if a customer said see me lawn with the best seed, there's nothing in here that I would choose to do this with. So we're just going to make the best of what we've got. And we can chop all that back, and that is making a good start. Okay, so we're just about to mow, but before I do that, I can't get to the edges of the walls with the scarify because the scarifying blades stop a good 3 or 4 inches before the actual wheels. So what I'd choose to do here is, you could, if you want, get your hand scarifier out. I haven't got mine with me, so what I'm going to do is sometimes I just trim as short as I can. So I'll just go around. I've got a trim anyway. So I'll just trim those areas really short, and that'll do. Okay, so I've just been playing about with the mower on 3 and 2. 2's the better height, but what's going to happen is if we go straight on 2, the box will need emptying every stripe and it'll just keep leaving more behind. So what I think we'll do is, we will do it on 3, give it another scarify, and then we'll do it on 2, and then that'll pick up what we haven't raked up, and do the final coat, and I think that'll be spot on. Double stripes, remember, and then when we put our products on, we've got some guidelines, so let's get going. Time is cracking on. Okay, so another pass with a scarifier, but this time we'll change direction, go diagonal, give it a rake, another cut, and then it's time for some products. Great, so we've got more raking to do. I'm tired, I'm weary, been at it a long time this year. Have I got enough energy to get this picked up? I have to, because there's no one else. Okay, so that's the second pass done, raked up. So I can feel now, you can see that we can see the earth in terms of, so we're walking on solid ground. So what we're going to do now is, like I said before, get on it with the hater again, number 2, and that'll be our final height, and get all the scarifying picked up that we couldn't pick up with the rake or by hand. And then we'll get on with some products. If you want to put some seed on after, you can do. Undecided whether I will or not, because I know it'll come back, and if I put any on, there are a few areas where it probably won't come back in the shade, where it's a bit damaged around there, so I might sprinkle some on there, but this lawn will come back on its own. And if we put like dwarf rye on, which is all I've got on me, it's just going to get drowned out. But we'll make a decision after. It's not going to hurt putting any on, but it's, if you're on a budget, then it might be worthwhile just holding back and spending your money on, like, maybe hiring the scarifier in the first place. But if you can do both, maybe do both, and also put products on as well. Daisy, Bellis perennis, that has just come to me as I was walking up there thinking of those weeds. So that's that done now, we're ready. Let's just take a minute to talk about aeration. Okay, so we're back at that same place where we had the lateral growth, and as you can see, it's all gone now. So we're back to the soil, so next time we come, we'll just keep cutting on 2, and then that grass will grow from here. And then in a few weeks we'll have a lovely lawn, which we can cut at number 2 without scalping it. Okay, so I'm just going on with Equilibrium, just because I've got this in the van. If you wanted to, because of the time of the year, you could also use Autumn Punch if you have any, because you've got some iron in there as well, which is good for this time of year, as well as the magnesium for a bit of colour. But you've got more nitrogen in this than you have in that, and that's what we need for the recovery. So that's why I'm choosing this one, because there's only 6% in there, but we've got 18% in here. So we're going to see a better rate of recovery than we would do with that one. And we can, if we get too much, we can just slow it down a little bit with slow go. We can always put some of that in our tank when we mix it later on, which I think I will do. But I think just because I've ripped out most of the weeds, it'd be pointless spraying a weed killer today, because you've got to have the leaf there for it to sit on. You're actually just spraying weed killer for no reason. And because it's, well, it was a little bit windy before, and because I'm near a water course, I don't really want to be spraying that on a windy day. So just ease off on that, I think, for today. And we'll let the weeds grow back, and then we'll treat those individually. Because what also can happen is, if you're mixing iron in the tank, you can get a bit of coagulation with the weed killer. It's not, I don't really like mixing them together. You can do, but I just prefer doing weed killer on its own, and that way it doesn't curdle, because sometimes you get that, especially if you mix them both together before you add any water. That's when it's more likely to happen, and sometimes you just forget and end up with basically like rice pudding in your tank. It does mix out if you put enough water with it, but ideally weed killer you want to be doing on its own and on a non-breezy day. Both at scale number 2 is what we were told on our spraying course. So that's the equilibrium on. What we'll do is we'll mix our liquids up and we'll get that on, and then this job is done. Okay, so we're on with the last task of the day, which is spraying the liquids. Like I said before, we're not going to put the weed killer in here just because the wind's picked up and we need that foliage there for it to adhere to, and there's none there, so it's pointless doing it. We've got Hibbert in, which is iron. Now, did you know that moss is illegal to kill if you're not using iron, which is licensed under a map number? Even though it's still the same stuff, you can't go around saying killing moss if you're using just normal off-the-shelf iron. If it's not got a map number on it, it's illegal. So even though I'm putting it on for that reason, I can't say it. So what I'm going to say is I'm spraying the iron to make the grass grow so the moss can't. So that's fine. But the minute you start saying control or kill, then you're really breaking the law. But who's watching? Because I can go on Amazon and buy Roundup, whatever I want, professional stuff, without anybody kicking up a fuss or anything. So who's gonna know? Now, what else we've got in there? We've got Sopro, Grey, Stella, Orbit, Dan's Magic and Slow Grow. So all these things are going to give us a really healthy turf, hopefully, in a few weeks. We've got great weather, we've got the heat, we've got the rain. What else do we need? Nothing. Just some nice prolonged sunshine just to top up my tan before I go away. So let's spray, and then we'll join it again in a few weeks when it's hopefully come back. Alright, so that's the job done and dusted for today. It's taken me just over 2 hours to get this done. I know it looks a mess now, but in a few weeks, honestly, this will look $1 million. As good as it can look $1 million, you know. The proverbial polishing a turd definitely applies here, but we're going to do our level best to do that. Now, if you've liked the video, be sure to give us a like and a subscribe. Leave any comments in the boxes below if you think I've done a bad job. Should I have left it? Should I have not done it? The proof is always in the pudding. If it comes back, if it doesn't, those of you who think I'm crazy will be right. Now remember the code that I had in my last video, which was hidden, not in, well, it was hidden in plain sight. Some of you seen it, some of you haven't. Make sure you look for it. That expires tonight at 11:59 p.m. on Monday, the 28th of August, as this is being filmed now. And then we'll see you next time, next week. This is the last video for this week because I'm off for a bit of sunshine. So until we meet again, take care and see you soon.
Danny, you've been here 20 years. It's time to go home now.
Oh, great.